Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing when dumper realizes mistake. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing when dumper realizes mistake. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you might be wondering what happens if and when your ex realizes they have made a mistake. In today's podcast, I'm going to describe the likely dumper journey that your ex will go through if they believe that they made a mistake in ending your relationship. I will be explaining this in 3 steps. Of course, it's important for me to say that there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back, and not every dumper will believe that they made a mistake. But if the dumpee does everything right, there is every chance that there could be a time in the future where the dumper believes that they made a mistake in ending the relationship. And that is why I will be explaining those 3 steps right now. So let's get straight into this. And number 1 is confusion. So we have to understand why a breakup takes place. When 2 people are in a loving romantic relationship, they are both feeling a high level of romantic emotional attraction for one another. Now, for various potential reasons, this level of romantic emotional attraction has sadly dropped for the person who decided to eventually end the relationship. When this level of attraction hit a certain low point in their mind, that is when they are likely to become a dumper and end the relationship. So when we consider this at that very time, the dumper is feeling a very low level of romantic emotional attraction for their dumpee. And at that moment, they believe that their life would be more fulfilled outside of that relationship. That is why somebody ends a relationship. They are feeling a very low level of romantic emotional attraction for their partner. They decide to end the relationship because they believe that outside of the connection, they will live a more fulfilled and happy life. So, if we get to a point in time where the dumper is beginning to wonder whether or not they have made a mistake, the first feeling that will come over them like a wave is confusion. How can I be feeling these type of feelings towards my ex when I ended the relationship? How can I start to feel that I'm missing my ex when I decided to end that relationship? It can be very confusing. If you have never been a dumper before, it might be something which you are finding hard to get your head round, but just try to consider this for a moment. You have ended a relationship because you believed that your life would be better outside of that connection, and now you have hit a moment where coming over you emotionally and in your mindset is the feeling that you are missing your ex. Now, if that was to happen, you would feel confusion. You are confused and you start to fight against this a little bit. You think, look, why am I thinking these things? Why am I missing my ex? I know that I ended the relationship. I'm single. I dumped them. I must have had a good reason to end that relationship. So why am I now missing them? It makes no sense. Now, the reason why a dumper would even get to this position is because the dumpee would have done the right things and behaved in the correct way to increase the growth of romantic emotional attraction in their dumper's mind. If the dumpee does everything right, then the level of attraction, which was very low at the time of breakup, can slowly but surely start to grow once more. Now, in today's podcast, I'm not going to go into how a dumpee can do this, but if you want to learn more about my theories and beliefs, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, ring the bell for notifications, and check out the playlists. I explain everything in depth about my feelings, my thoughts, and my explanations of how a dumpee can increase the chance of one day getting their ex back. Of course, there are no guarantees. And sometimes, even if the dumpee does everything right, the level of romantic emotional attraction does not grow to the necessary high point for the dumper to begin missing them. But for today's podcast, we're going to say that that has happened. The dumpee has done everything right. The dumper has then gone through their own life journey and has got to a stage where they're now beginning to miss their ex. And the first moment of when this starts to feel in their mindset, this is when they will really begin to seem confused. They will feel confused to themselves. If they speak to their friends and family will think they're confused. They might say, look, why are you thinking these things? You ended that relationship. Why are you thinking these things? So at this moment, they will be fighting against that urge. Their own mind is telling them that they must be wrong. Their friends and family, if they speak to them, will be saying you must be wrong. They'll be saying, look, you ended that relationship. You didn't want to be in it. So why are you thinking about your ex now? Come on, move forward. That is the likely situation that will take place. So step one about when a dumper realizes they've made a mistake is confusion. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast, the second step. And number 2 is regret. So as we was explaining in point number 1, the first initial feelings that a dumper will really be going through once they start to miss their ex is confusion. But once this develops further, once this starts to persist, once the dumper can no longer put this to the back of their mind, they will begin to regret their decision. So it starts off with missing their ex. Then they go into this confusion. That is the big step, the confusion that they feel for themselves, that their friends and family have spoke to them about, no doubt. And now they just can't kick it. They can't get rid of these thoughts and feelings. It is persisting. Whatever they are doing to put this to the back of their mind is not working, and they continually think of their ex, the dumpee, just as the dumpee was doing when the dumper ended the relationship. It's almost like the tables have turned. So the dumper starts to think more and more about their ex. They start to feel that they are missing their ex more and more, and this develops into regret. And as a dumpee, this is a key and important moment, because in essence, regret is where the dumper is no longer confused about their feelings. Regret is where the dumper is no longer thinking, I must be making a mistake. The dumper is now clear in their mindset. The dumper is now focused on the goal. The dumper now realizes that they have made a mistake. And this is the important part we're talking about in today's podcast. What a dumper is likely to go through once they realize that they have made a mistake. And point number 2 is regret. Point number 2 is regret, and the moment of where it really hits home, where they realize they've made a mistake. Now, this could be for various potential reasons. I can't consider every single possibility because every relationship is different and every breakup is different. But what we can say is at this moment in time, the level of romantic emotional attraction that the dumper is feeling for the dumpee has now hit the necessary high point. They are now fully intrigued about their ex. They're not just missing them and thinking, I must be making a mistake or I'm confused. They are now intrigued and they are feeling regret. So for a dumper who is now experiencing this, they're feeling the regret. They're feeling the intrigue for their ex. It is more than confusion. This is where the dumper is now trying to finalize a plan of action. The dumper is thinking, I really want to reconnect with my ex. And even if they aren't sure if they want to reconnect romantically or just platonically at this stage, what they do know is that they need to contact their ex and they need to see how they feel. They need to see how they feel once again in the presence of their ex. And first of all, this will likely be via communication. And this now leads us into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about what happens when dumper realizes mistake. And point number 3 is they make contact. So point number 1 was confusion. They're not really sure why they're feeling these thoughts. Point number 2 is regret. Their mindset clears, and like a laser beam, they know the goal. They know what they need to do. They know that point. They're no longer clouded. And point number 3 is they take that step. Point number 3 is making contact. Now, more often than not, contact will be via messaging app, text message, something such as that. It's unlikely to be face-to-face. It's unlikely to be over the phone. But of course, every situation is possible. But in most instances, the dumper will reach out to the dumpee via text. Now, will it be a clear message saying, I'm really sorry, I miss you? Well, that's unlikely. Again, not impossible. Sometimes this happens. But is it likely? No, it's not. More often than not, it will be more tentative. It might be something very short. It could be what some refer to as a breadcrumb. You have to consider as a dumpee, if you receive contact from your ex, was it necessary or was it unnecessary? If it's not necessary, then that is a good sign, even if it's short, even if it's small. Now, I know that I differ from some coaches online on this subject. I am a believer that breadcrumbs can be grown. I'm a believer that you can grow a huge tree from a tiny seed. I believe that a new relationship can grow from a very short message. Now, of course, some people don't believe in breadcrumbs, and that is their prerogative. Some people can believe in them, some people can't. But I'm here to say that the key, in my opinion, is to see whether the contact you receive is necessary or unnecessary. If it's not necessary, then even if it's really short, I believe there is an opportunity to try and grow that contact. Now, will it work every time? Will a dumpee who receives contact from their ex get their ex back every single time? No, they won't. There is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time, and nothing fails 100% of the time. The communication stage is its own stage. It's not the moment where you've got your ex back. It means you have moved to the next stage. You're past the initial stage of breakup. You have now heard from your ex. Now is the communication stage, and if you can progress through this, if you can navigate it correctly, you will then end up meeting and have the meeting stage. At that point, there is the possibility that you can get back with your ex, and I always like to refer to this as a brand new relationship. I don't believe that when you reconnect, you just carry on your previous relationship. I believe that you are starting a new relationship grown on stronger foundations. So I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I hope you can see what the likely steps are that a dumper will go through if and when they realise that they've made a mistake. As I keep saying, nothing can be guaranteed, and I have had to generalise in today's podcast, but this is often what will happen if and when a dumper starts to feel like they have made a mistake. And this can happen in part if the dumpee does everything right. It won't guarantee success, but let me put it this way. If the dumpee does everything wrong, then that will be the end. So to give yourself the best possible chance, you must do the right things, and that at least gives you the possibility of one day hearing from your ex again. Additionally, though, a dumpee should always remember not to clock watch, not to wait around, because there's no guarantee of success. A dumpee must move forward with their life, because with or without your ex, you will have a positive future, providing you live a positive life. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, if you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent Bo, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back, or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, you know Vincent Bo got you. Finding love ain't no problem. Yeah, DateMe.tips, check it out now.